Good afternoon, everybody. Today I'm going to talk about ABBA's big hit in Australia, Fernando. And Fernando appeared on the charts in early 1976 after we'd had a string of hits in Australia from late 1975, including I Do, I Do, I Do and Mamma Mia and SOS. And even Ring Ring was re-released. And then there was Fernando. And the first exposure I had to Fernando was on, I think, A Current Affair on Channel 9. I think Sue Smith was the host. And they showed after a short interview with the other members, they showed the promo clip, the famous Around the Fire clip, which is that one just there. And of course, that's from the actual promo clip that they did for Fernando. And it was the first time most of us, I think, had seen Frida with non-permed hair. She actually had beautiful, long, page boy style, dark brown hair at that time. And it really suited her. And yet it looked beautiful as well. So basically, they, at the end of the short interview, where they were asking them, they'd actually come out at that time for just a promotional tour to promote their Best of ABBA LP, which sold into the millions. And they did a press conference at the Hilton Hotel in Sydney, and they were asked questions about what did they know most about Australia, and Yetta chirped up koala, and that's how she said it literally. It was quite funny. And what Benny said, was that they mostly knew about the wildlife here in Australia. So that was interesting. So at the end of the interview, that's when they screened the promo clip of Fernando for the very first time in Australia. And of course, it showcased the group perfectly. The interesting thing with Fernando is that originally it was sung by Frida, solo in Swedish, and I've actually translated or got access to a translation of the Swedish lyrics, which I might just read to you now to just give you an idea of how a song can evolve, because the lyrics in the Swedish version of the song, if they're converted to English, they're very different to what the English hit version was that we had in Australia. So I'll start off with that first today. Okay, so basically this was the lyrics in Swedish translated to English, okay? It starts off, "Why are you suffering, Fernando? Why is there such a sad sound coming from your guitar? What happened? Are you in love, Fernando? She has left you with your strong, strong feelings. Is that so? Anyone who has loved and lost knows that these things happen from time to time. Sorrow can be hard to deal with, but you have to learn how to deal with it when betrayed by friends. I have also lost my beloved. How can you think you're the only one going through this? Are there any happy songs left that you can play? Play them for me. May love live a long, long time for our best friend Fernando. Fill your glass and raise it in a celebratory toast to love Fernando. Play the melody and sing a happy song. May love live a long, long time to love Fernando. Let's toast to the others who found eternal love and the faith within every song. Or should we toast to each other? Will you drink to the happiness I used to have? It's true, the beautiful fairy tales never ever last." Okay, so those lyrics are very different to the English version of Fernando, which was about, Bjorn described it as an old guy reminiscing about the wartime in the Rio Grande. But he didn't go into a lot of detail when he was asked that question, but that's roughly what he said, okay? But of course, the music's always the most important thing, for me anyway. and particularly with these early songs, because there's just so much orchestration, and Fernando is a classic in that aspect. I don't think it, depending on which charts you look at, I don't think it was any coincidence that it was 18 weeks at the top of the charts in Sydney. And it depends on what chart you look at, but that is pretty amazing, at number 1. And it was in the charts for months and months and months after that. Not at number 1, but still in the charts. And it was interesting that it was added to the Arrival album in Australia, whereas overseas, the Arrival album didn't have Fernando on it. And actually, Fernando was one of my mum's favourite songs. I don't know if she was that mad about ABBA, but she did like Fernando, so that was good. Anyway, getting back to Fernando, it has been recorded, or we have obviously Frida's solo version in Swedish. We also have a Spanish version done by ABBA. We have a German version using the backing tracks that ABBA had by the lovely Lena Andersson, who was a Swedish artist in her own right, and she's still around and she's writing songs, and she lives in America now. And her version of the backing track had some added strings in it that weren't in the Fernando hit 45 that was released. And also on that point, when ABBA appeared on the Musikladen German TV special from Bremen, which has gone under various titles around the world, they actually added a piano part to the backing track that doesn't appear anywhere else. And it's really beautiful, the arrangement that Benny added. But I think the problem was pianos aren't really portable. And you had a firelight scene here, so you wouldn't expect to see a piano there, I guess. So maybe when they did the promo version, they deleted the piano track, because obviously it's more likely you'd have guitars around a firelight as we have there, rather than a piano. Okay, although it is possible, but pianos aren't as portable as guitars, and I think that's probably why guitars went out over pianos. But pianos have a much more wider range of things you can do with them. But I might be biased because that's my favourite instrument. So anyway, getting back to that. Okay, so this version of Fernando I have here was released in this folio that came out in roughly 1976, I think, from memory. Okay, and the very first song in the folio is Fernando, surprisingly. Not really. Okay, so the first thing is that Fernando is in the key of A major, which is a very bright key, and that was the same key that we'd heard Ring Ring in on the album, not on the single. The single was in B flat major, but the album version was sped up a little bit, up to semitone, like one note. Lower to semitone from B flat to A major. Okay. All right. So A major is our key there, and along with Honey Honey and Nina Pretty Ballerina, Bang a Boomerang, and Ring Ring. How could I forget Ring Ring? They all had a boogie bass in the chorus. In Fernando, it's a little bit a slower sort of boogie. Just to give you an example there, okay? So, Fernando starts off with a fade in. A lot of pop songs back in those times faded out. So at the end of the song, the sound would get softer and softer and softer and fade out. And I remember a kid in my music class at Punchbowl Boys High School asked Arthur Cook, who was our music teacher at the time, this was around 1972, and he asked him, why do pop songs fade out? And his theory was it kind of avoids a cold ending. A cold ending is when you have something like, so that's a very definite ending on a perfect cadence, as we call it. There's no doubt that that's the end of that short tune. And so that was one of the things he said. The idea was to possibly encourage people to play the song again, because it gradually fades out. But with Fernando, it not only fades out, but at the very beginning, it fades in, which is really interesting. I think it's the only ABBA song that does that. And of course, it was the flutes were very prominent. Underneath the flutes in the instrumental introduction to Fernando, there's a lot of thirds going on, this sort of thing. And then a fourth. Okay. So then that all leads up to the start of the first verse. And all the hits prior to Fernando in Australia mainly featured Agneta as the lead vocalist. In fact, I think I've mentioned elsewhere that my parents thought ABBA was actually Agneta. Anyway, I soon sorted that one out with them. But like I said earlier, when this song was first released on Frida's solo album, it was sung in Swedish, and only Frida was singing the vocals. So for the first section of the first verse, "Can you hear the drums, Fernando?" that was sung solo by Frida in English. And her voice is so silky, and it just seemed to fit that song so well. I think I understand why they chose Frida to sing that one over Agneta. There may have been other reasons, but I think that was definitely that sort of silky voice. It's so beautiful. You know, "Can you hear the drums, Fernando? I remember long ago another starry night like this. In the firelight, Fernando, you were humming to yourself and softly strumming your guitar. I could hear the distant drums and sounds of bugle calls were coming from afar." So it's very definite A major there, hovering around that. Okay. And I kind of wish personally that they had let Frida continue to sing the first verse fully, just solo. But at that point, Agneta starts to join in and sort of sing a counter melody to what Frida's singing, and it blends very nicely. And maybe they did that too because obviously there's the four of them in the group. They were trying to promote the group at that time in a big way, so it would make sense that you'd have both girls singing rather than just have Frida doing the whole verse solo sort of thing. Okay? All right. So then, of course, there's a lot of things going on in the wall of sound there. This sort of thing. So that was quite prominent. And interesting, the bass kind of had those same... In the background, you can hear this sort of thing going on, which is also based on that thing, little riff there. Okay, so then the killer chorus comes along. There was something in the air that night. Okay, so at one stage, some people even said it was like Australia's national anthem because it was always played at the end of Countdown, and after many weeks of it being number one, Molly Melbourne decided to play something else, even though Fernando was still number one. And I know a lot of people rang Channel 2 to complain about it, but I didn't get to see it on Molly's show because it was on at the same time as the news. We had one TV and my parents didn't particularly like Countdown, so we had to watch the news. And we didn't have video recorders or anything like that back then, so that was the breaks. But anyway, okay. So then the next thing with Fernando is the killer chorus. Like, it's just with that boogie bass, you know, going on, and all these other things going on above it. I mean, it's just so it's so difficult to explain all the intricate sounds that are going on in that. But it just shows how there's so much more to ABBA than a lot of people realise. And for me personally, the earlier songs have outlasted the later songs, and I can't see that really ever changing because there's so much to listen to in those early backing tracks. That I think that's indisputable. They must have spent so much time working on those overdubbing and overdubbing again. Like if you can imagine, you make a layer of cake, and then you add another layer to the cake, and then you add another layer to the cake, and another layer to the cake, and then you end up with this big cake, and it's made up of all these parts that become greater than the whole itself. And that's that just out sort of thing. So that's basically what ABBA was all about in those early days, and that's what's kept my interest for so long. All these years later, 50 years later, I'm still playing those early songs. The latest songs, I play them occasionally. I enjoy them. They're great, but my heart's with the earlier songs, and I'm unashamedly say that. The lyrics in the earlier songs weren't so important to Bjorn and Benny at that time either. It was the sound of the lyrics, like I said before. And in the case of Fernando, it did tell a story, and I think it's amazing that English was not Bjorn or Benny's first language. Now, and I studied French at high school for, how many years was that? 5 years. And I can speak fairly reasonable French. But if I had to, because that's not my first language, English is my first language, but if I had to write a song in French with French lyrics, and not only write that, but get all the words to rhyme, that just boggles my mind. I don't think I could do that very easily. And with Bjorn and Benny, they're writing these lyrics not in their native tongue, in English, and rhyming the words as well. It's just amazing. It just shows how clever Bjorn is as a lyricist, and Benny was as a musician. And then the girls, you've got two girls that have had solo careers, Frida more so in jazz, and yet more poppy sort of love song sort of things, ballads and things like that. And then you put the four of them together and you have that gestalt thing again, where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And that's why we have this magic, this wonderful legacy of music that I think will outlive many other artists that have been forgotten about. I mean, how many artists from the 70s are still selling records like ABBA is? It's a fact. Also the fact that back in the days when we had a top 40 and it was based on record sales, and given Australia's population at the time, it's amazing the number of records that ABBA did sell in this country. I mean, they estimated it that 1 in 3 households in Australia had an ABBA record. It's just, that in itself is just amazing. Like I said, there's a lot of things with Fernando, the backing tracks, the wall of sound, the fact that it was recorded in quite a few different languages, the fact that it was the first song where we saw Frida without a perm, and she looked so beautiful in that clip. I'm an Agneta fan, but I have to admit she really looks so beautiful in that promo clip. And the fact that the song was really her song in a sense, and not long after we had Dancing Queen with the two girls again, and that song was so hard to beat in itself. And then we had Money, 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 and Frida was featured in that again too. So all these things make a part of the ABBA story, and I hope my enthusiasm from ABBA gets you to listen to them a little bit more carefully and not dismiss them as just being maybe bubblegum. I think if you want to call them bubblegum, it was very high-grade bubblegum. There's no doubt about that. And I don't think we'll ever see another group like them. I'm convinced of that too. And the talent in the group, even beyond ABBA, I mean, Benny is still writing songs and Bjorn is still writing lyrics for him. It's just amazing. But music is such great, as a psychologist, I have to say, music is such great therapy for people too. And a love of music is one of the best things that can last you a whole lifetime and give you so much pleasure. And when you're feeling a bit low, music can give you a lift. And when you're feeling a bit down, there's always music that can make you feel a little bit better as well. There's probably other things I've forgotten to mention. I do all these things ad-lib, which is probably not wise, but maybe later on, when I've got more time, I will actually try and write out some notes in detail before I do the presentation. But I've just been on a bit of a roll lately, and I've wanted to do this for a long time. And lack of time is my worst enemy at the moment, so I'm just trying to do this whenever I can, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. All right, all the best. Thank you.